Hi, it's Isabel, A Curious Tale. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share with you a handmade gift idea because it's something I'm going to make actually for my mum's birthday, and I thought this is definitely the season for crafting, gift giving, and yeah, I thought like if someone might be inspired, it could be fun, and also just to share my process of this pretty simple but I think quite useful gift idea. So it's a needle case, which doesn't necessarily sound super exciting, but anyone who loves to sew is going to need somewhere to put all of their needles and their pins to keep in their sewing box. I actually made my mum a needle case for her birthday when I think I was about 10, and I think several decades later it could be time to refresh her needle case because she's still using it, which is very nice. And my concept is that I want to make a slightly larger needle case, not necessarily one that you take around with you, but one that you can put in your sewing kit, because I feel like needle cases can tend to get really full of needles, spare bits of thread, pins, and they can get a little messy. So my concept is to make one that's a bit bigger, that can fit everything nice and neatly, and then it's also not like she can still use the small one if she wants to have something small on the go, but then use the bigger one just for putting in the sewing box. So yeah, you could also just make this for yourself. I think it would be a really fun, cozy, cold season crafting project. So yeah, please follow along with me for this process, and hopefully, I haven't started yet, so hopefully if you're seeing this it means it has been successful. And yeah, like, hope you have an enjoyable time. And also, this is a very simple idea, so I think it's more so just to inspire you to do your own version, and this is really something where you could make it very personal, you can make it very complicated, very technical, or you could just make it super simple. And yeah, there's lots of possibilities. So yeah, if you're interested, please follow along with me for my process.
Before crafting, you have to set the scene. So I put on a CD, I chose Clan of Zymox, and then I sorted through my felt. It turns out that it would be best to use black because that's what I had the most of. And here's just my simple design I jotted down. But as we'll see, the project evolves as I'm sewing it. I thought I might have enough of other colours, but it turns out I didn't, so I decided to go for the black and then to add colour through my decorations instead. So I just eyeballed it, as they say, measuring and cutting out the felt. I wanted to be able to include a line of 3 pins or needles vertically, which is much bigger than standard needle cases because they usually just have 1 or 2, with my idea that this is something you could keep in your sewing box and fit a lot in. So I just start cutting it out, and I thought then it was too wide, and just then when I was cutting I realised that I could leave a flap to fold over and pop her in place so that the needle case will stay closed, and I thought that would just make it easier to use and make it neater, but that just popped into my mind as I was doing it. I hadn't planned that beforehand, but in the end I'm really glad I left that tab in. Then I'm just getting more of the black felt to cut my 2 pages. So again, I'm just eyeballing it, and I just grabbed a white eyeliner, which is very handy when you don't have a chalk pencil, and marked it in place. But I still had to trim it because I wasn't using a ruler or anything. So I just kept cutting away little slivers until I thought it was rectangle enough and straight enough. After cutting out the second page, I just sort of moulded them together and just kept snipping away until they lay flat, because when you've got a book, the inner pages are going to stick out slightly if you cut them the same size, so the inner pages will need to get gradually a little bit smaller, especially with fabric as thick as felt, because that's going to change the exact size you need. But you can just keep snipping away because the felt isn't going to fray, so it's a very easy material to work with. I then just pinned the book in place, and then I trimmed a little more just to make sure that it was as even as possible. It's never going to be perfect, but I just wanted to make sure the pages wouldn't stick out of the needle case when it was shut. So then when I was satisfied, I just sort of molded it into place so that it would lay flat when I sewed it, and I found this vintage carpet thread, which I chose because it's really strong, but it isn't super thick. I was initially thinking to go with an embroidery thread, but I thought the carpet thread would be more sturdy, so I just knotted it in place inside one of the pages so you won't see the knot, and then I did backstitch down the center of the book in order to keep it in place. Then I chose this vintage, I believe, Gujarati piece of fabric, and I embroidered my mother's initial on it because I wanted to, again, just add something that would really personalize it and be something that you couldn't buy. I think when you hand make gifts, there's so many chances to make them really unique in the way that couldn't be easily bought in a shop, and I think these little touches really make them just more special. So I chose a really nice blue colour that I thought stood out against the rest of the embroidery, just knotted it in place. There it is, just a simple K. And then I cut this little piece to go over the flap so that it didn't look like a stark bit of black against the colour. But because it's vintage fabric, it was missing a bit of embroidery. So I just went over it with a pink thread, again, not trying to match the colour or anything, and not trying to make it look seamless, but more of a visible mending kind of thing. And I like how the pink and green look together. So I just knotted that in place. As you can see, I always knot my threads so many times because I'm clearly worried it's going to unravel somehow. I just pressed it in place, and then I pinned everything in place so that it wouldn't move around when I was sewing it. And these are some of the pins that are actually going to later be in the book. I chose a green thread because I thought, again, the colours went well, and I doubled my thread so that it was a little bit thicker. I again was thinking this could work with embroidery thread, but I thought that might detract from the beautiful embroidery on this vintage piece of fabric, so I just went for regular thread. And I'm just doing blanket stitch all the way around because I didn't want to fold the fabric over because I thought that would make it too bulky. So the blanket stitch is a great way to just trap any fibres so they don't fray, but not add any extra bulk to the project. So after blanket stitching that all in place, I chose one of these, some vintage poppers, and I just sewed that in place on the flap. So as you can see, it shuts, and I also embroidered and added the little bit of fabric to it. So this was fun. I was adding the needles to the front page, just playing around with how they're going to sit, and I think I realised that it was it was really spacious, and it definitely could fit more needles and pins than I was going to put in it, but I think it's good to start off and then you can always add an extra because my mum has a lot of needles and pins herself, so I think it's good in the end that there's some space to add extras. And also in time these needles will all have little remnants of thread on them, so it's good to have some space. I then started adding in the pins, and of course I had to sort of colour coordinate it because why not? So these are all orange ones on the first page. It was very satisfying to put these in place, I have to say. And then on the second page, I was just squeezing some more in there. On the second page, I went for first yellow and then green pins. I like using these kind of pins with the plastic top because I think they're easy to see and they don't really get lost. But these little pins that I'm adding into the final page are really useful for going around corners or working with thinner fabrics. So it's good to have both. Then I just added some extra ones in, clearly trying to get as many pins in there as possible. And that's how the needle case looks at the end. Again, I just thought I'll add in some more on this page just to get as many in as possible. And here are some birthday cards I made.
So here's the finished needle case. Thanks for watching along for how I made it, and let me know if you've been inspired to make something similar. I'd love to know. So yeah, that was my simple sewing gift project, and hopefully I'll be sharing some more crafting videos soon because I'm always crafting something. I hope everyone who's looking for gifts finds some wonderful treasures to give, and I hope anyone watching has a lot of cozy crafting times this winter. So hope you have a wonderful day or evening wherever you are, and I hope to see you again soon. Please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and if you don't, then that's also fine. So yeah, thanks and see you again. Bye!